Ryan Goodman and Tanguay podcast is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Okay, everybody, here we go. It's time for Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tanguay along for the ride. Zoom in podcast. Of course, we are brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball season is in full swing. No better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers get a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000. More details on that coming right up. Okay, guys, let's get to it. Bob's favorite player, his favorite team this year, other than Sacramento, but you've always been a Denver Nuggets fan. Finally, for the city of Denver, they get a title in the NBA. Just your thoughts on this team in this series.
My general thoughts are that we had a winner and we had a team that didn't win, and I would never classify as a loser. And I know that's semantics and it sounds goody-goody, but I truly believe it. My quest when I'm not involved in a rooting interest in sports, right? I root for the Celtics, okay? I want them to win. I root for the Red Sox. I root for the Patriots. I root for the Bruins. I root for BC. I root. So rooting is one thing. But if I'm not rooting for a team, if I'm just observing, as a fan of sport, I want what I call justice. I don't want bad refereeing. I don't want unfortunate injuries at the wrong time. I want everybody to have their fair shot. I want teams to get and justice to be served by the team that should win. The team that should have won the NBA championship won. Yeah. The Heats are the most noble losers or non-winners I can remember. What they did should not be dismissed. It was amazing. They lost arguably their second best player, maybe their third, Bam, maybe, immediately. And they still knocked off a 1 and a 2 and went all the ways. What they did, I think they were tremendous, and I admire what they did, and I just want to establish that. So we have a worthy champion, we have a worthy finalist. Justice was served, and we all got to watch Djokovic do his thing, and we saw
Jokic and Djokovic both did their thing.
Yeah, I said Jokic. Jokic. Right. So we watch him do his thing, and it was fun. So now I'm pleased as a fan of the sport, as a guy who's covered the NBA since 1969. I think it was a worthy playoffs, and I'm happy that the right team won.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's hard to argue. They were likable too. Like Denver's a likable team in almost every way, from the coach who went to Worcester Academy, Michael Malone, from the big guy who got all the attention, Jamal Murray, who had missed, the postseason because of injuries the last couple of years, Michael Porter, who was supposed to be a #1 overall pick, but had all those injuries in college and even when he got to the NBA, Bruce Brown, who Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who kind of was, refound his shooting stroke in Denver. It was just, it's a really fun team to watch. They didn't celebrate like a lot of other teams, although the parade they did. They had their fun in the parade.
Right, they shaved it up.
Yeah. They didn't post game. They were kind of boring, but in the parade, man, they were drinking. Michael Malone was hilarious in the post.
I know it's a lot of social media out there on him. It's great. I didn't know he went to Worcester Academy.
Yeah.
And because I'm a fan, I knew Daddy, and I don't know Michael, but I knew Brendan, and I'm happy for both of them in that regard. Yeah, there's so much to like about the way they did it, and then the games, the contributions they got, the key contributions they got from auxiliary players when they needed it. Brown was one game. Brown, the other Brown, Braun, the other Brown had 2 very significant contribution games in the finals. I didn't know how good he was, quite frankly.
Oh, he's got a lot of shit to his game. That's the one thing. You look at him and you're like, come on. This kid looks like he's, 18 years old. He's probably not that much older than that. But, man, I remember talking to guys at the Final Four a couple of years ago when they won it all. And I was like, who has the most swagger on this team? And everybody in Kansas was like Christian Brown.
Yeah.
Not even close.
So, I mean, that was good. And then, of course, the flip side, we'll never know what would have happened if the Heat had Tyler Hero. They had moments. Guys stepped up, and our guy Duncan Robinson had a couple games where he, replaced Hero very nicely. But still, it's too bad it happened. But they fought through it admirably. And I'll tell you went up in my esteem. I never had watched him that extensively as you do when you see throughout the prolonged playoffs to know how good Bam is. Bam's a damn good player, and he's got a versatile game. I didn't realize he was this good a passer. So I came out with a lot of admiration for Bam Adebayo.
Well, I think what Bam has struggled with is we had very high expectations for him. And I think Jeff, you can comment on this because you've seen him for years. Once we've accepted what the player he is, you can appreciate him like Bob.
Yeah, he's never going to be a guy that like dominates offensively game after game after game. He can have his 25 one night, but he's going to be good for 16, 18. That's generally what Bam is. But he does everything well. And I love Bam too. Like, he just plays the game. Like, he plays the game the right way. He's not bitching and moaning and complaining where a lot of guys like him would. I've always had a lot of respect for Bam and kind of, again, how he goes about his business.
So is there anything hollow about Denver's championship?
No, zero. I don't think so. I mean, listen, 3 years ago, we were dealing with a bubble. So, like, no, I don't think you can say anything's hollow just because they got Miami in the finals. They still took care of the Lakers with, arguably one of the, two greatest players ever to play the game, and swept them. So no, I think it's well earned and deserved. And I think it's kind of, again, it's nice to have somebody new now celebrating and winning these titles these days rather than the same old, which we had for a while.
Well, have they said, is there a blueprint set by Denver, Bob? Because we have seen in the past, it's all about the star. It's all about the sizzle. It's all about, the franchise player, which they certainly have. He just doesn't carry himself that way. I mean, is there a blueprint now in place the way Denver did it?
No, and this is the world we have come to live in. This isn't the world I inherited, 50 years ago covering the league. We didn't have certain types of dialogues as we now seem to have. Already people worrying about who's going to win next year and is there a dynasty possibility, blah, blah, blah. No. And your blueprint, I go back as far back as the 75 Warriors, okay, who won with Rick Barry and the Jordanaires, basically what it was, and everybody, you couldn't even, and people say, well, here's the blueprint at that. Yeah. Is that a blueprint? You're going to win with 10 guys. They won with 10 guys. That was they Rick Barry and 9 guys platooning. That's how they won. The 75 Warriors upset the heavily favored Bullets. Okay. Okay. No, there's no blueprint. And then there was remember go back several years, guys. You had to have 3 all-stars, or people said, and then it was 2, then it was 3. No, you put a team together the way you can put a team together. There's certain common components everybody wants to some degree, but first of all, where are you going to replicate Jokic?
There you go.
No replication for him. That's it. Right. He's sui generis, okay? So
I was just going to say that. There's only one of him. There's only one of him, and nobody's coming like it.
So that's the end of the discussion. Unless you're going to trade for him? No.
Hey, I have a good question for you, Bob. Do you see Jokic being somebody that eventually, like right now, you've got a class of all-time great bigs that's what, Will, Kareem and Russell.
Right. Then you draw the line and then there's another tier. Okay, for me, it's Shaq, Holy Trinity of all-time centers, and then we have then the arguments start. Fine, fine. I think
and
number
it's 4. What Shaq, Duncan.
Well, Duncan, I don't call a center. He's a hybrid. Big.
All right, I'm just saying bigs.
But Jokic. Fair. But Jokic, it's so hard, Jeff, now because Jokic is such a positionalist player, right?
Yeah, I mean, he does the things that none of those guys ever did, which is pass the hell out of the ball.
Well, I also don't think of him as a center. Like
he's definitely a center, but he's definitely a center because of his body. He's got to be a center. Yes, he doesn't play like a center, a traditional center,
right?
Because he can take the ball off the glass and go with it. But he's definitely a center. I would say, you're looking at a guy that's maybe cracked the top 5 or 6 bigs in NBA history already. Is that crazy?
Well, he's on his way. He's on his way. The point is, for me, you got to play about 10 years. That's
played 8. He's played 8.
No, he's getting there. He's got. He would be if this pace continues. If he continues to. I'm saying he has to win the championship every year. I'm not one of those guys. But if this continues, sure, he's going to enter. He has to enter into the discussion. This is a whole different type of player. This is a combination. And that's why we're not. I don't expect to see any more Jokic's because you can't. You're born with that vision. You're born with that instinct. You're born with. You don't manufacture. Not everybody can't do the stuff he did. It's just there's a little Walt in this game. There's a little somebody else in this game, and yet he's a modern player because who had the first? What game was it? 6 or I mean, was it? Excuse me, it was never game 6, 4 or 5 when they were not making. He made the first 3 of the night for them. And he was about 3 feet behind the line.
Right.
Something we've never seen. Before. We don't have. This is the new game. Obviously, Robert Parrish was not taking 3 shots 3 feet behind the arc. He had a lot of range on his turnaround jumper, more amazing range, but not that much range. No, it's a different world now entirely. And don't expect to see any automatically think we're going to get a new crop of Jokic's. No, he is special, truly special.
Okay, time to take a break from the fellas here to tell you about FanDuel. As baseball is in full swing, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. If your first bet doesn't win, just go to FanDuel.com/Boston to join today. Hey, taking a look at Major League Baseball right now. How about the O's? How about Baltimore, the Orioles? Finally, they seem to be on a bit of a roll. So don't miss your chance to snag a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/Boston to sign up. FanDuel is the official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, let's segue to the Celtics right now. And when you take a look at what Denver did, and you look at team chemistry, and that's something the Celtics did not have, Jeff. I'll start with you on this. Even though Brad was pretty tight-lipped and supported the team as is during his post-game press conference, do the Celtics have to take a hard look at the lack of chemistry on their team and make some moves?
I don't know if it's like lack of chemistry. I don't know if these guys don't like each other.
On-floor chemistry.
Yeah. Well, I've said this for 4 years 3 years really. And again, for a little spell, it got better with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But again, they kind of reverted back. And I really, and again, I'm going to sound like a guy that doesn't like Jaylen Brown. It's not that I don't like Jaylen Brown. When I watch Jaylen Brown, I don't see him making anybody else better. And I never see him, honestly. I want to do this, and I haven't. I want to track how many times he passed the ball to Jason Tatum each game in the playoffs. It was such a low number. Like in my 3, 4, I mean, rarely did he pass it. I mean, there were times, if you really watch closely, Jaylen Brown's got the ball on the break, and he's got Tatum on the left side, and he's got Marcus Smart on the right side. And consistently, he would give the ball to Marcus Smart instead of Tatum. And I'm like, dude, one guy's 6'10" and can finish over dudes. And the other guy's 6'2", and maybe he'll make the shot. But this is an easy one. Just give it to Tatum, and he's going to get to the line at worst case scenario. Probably going to dunk over the dude because it's 3-on-1. I don't know. I'm out on it. I think I'm out on it finally on that these guys are going to figure out how to play well together. I just don't think it's going to happen. We've seen it now. 4 years they've been the cornerstone duo since Kyrie left, and it hasn't really gotten any better. So what makes any of us think it's all of a sudden going to get better in year 5 where they're the core guys?
I'm reluctantly coming around to that type of conclusion because I keep saying they don't need an infusion of talent. I still don't think they need an infusion of raw talent, but they and the thing is, their mistakes are. Here's what I think: if you're going to have mistakes, their omissions, their mistake, everything's correctable. This is why I hesitate. I hesitate to say they should blow it up because I will get to who I think I might you want to trade in a minute, but I don't think you. It's just. Is it stubborn? Am I being stubborn? Anybody that subscribes to this theory being stubborn, that they still can get it. They can still, because all they got to do is play differently, play right, because they don't need raw talent. I don't think. I don't
Well, they
think it
don't.
has.
I think you're right, Bob. Well, to me, this was the year.
Well,
Milwaukee, this was the year to do it because,
it was there for them.
let's face it. Okay, let's play a game. Bob, and I'll start with you on this. If the Celtics are cohesive on the floor, do they beat Denver?
At playing their A game yeah, they could. They're right there with Denver.
They're capable of beating Denver. If they play their A game, they are capable of beating Denver and winning the title.
Totally. My belief is still that there is they have as many good players as any team in the league, and that they don't need an infusion of talent. But yeah, Denver had a special player that nobody can replicate. I understand that, but they're the best. Yes, if they had moments, we've seen them, but they're very infrequent. To play the way they should play. They still won 57 games playing their way. By the way.
Well, that's the frustrating thing. Jeff, I think. I'm not going to say it was an automatic, but if the Celtics play their A game and Jaylen Brown does look to his left and give the ball to Jason Tatum, they could have. I'm not going to say they would have beat Denver because Denver has a great player,
right?
But it would have been a hell of a series. It could have gone 7.
No doubt.
No doubt.
Again, it's one of those things that you look at Denver and the way they were put together. And one of the things I'll say with Denver that they have, and the Celtics, and I think Bob will agree with me on this one, if you're going to keep playing the way you're playing, the way Brad Stevens kind of implemented when he got the job of throwing up 30, 40 threes, you better have better three-point shooters. You better have
we agree with that,
elite 3-point shooters. And they've got I know Al Horford, some of those guys had career years, Horford, Brogdon, Tatum can really shoot it when he gets going. We know that. He can have some awful games too. Jaylen Brown's not a great shooter. He's a good shooter, but he's not a great shooter, right? Derek White's not a great. Grant Williams is not a great shooter. Al Horford's really not a great shooter. He had a year. Here. Marcus Smart, we know, isn't a very good shooter. So, if you're going to play this way, I do feel like this is the time to part ways with Marcus Smart. I think I'm there. And I don't know if that's who you were alluding to, Bob, but I'd be curious to know if that's finally the guy that you're saying, you know what, I love him, but it's time.
You know what they say about great minds, Jeff?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You have hit the jackpot. Yeah. I have incessantly declared myself as a member of the Marcus Smart fan club. And the stuff he does his way, nobody else does. But yes, I have reluctantly come to the conclusion that maybe we have to. He's 29. He's not going to change. That maybe I don't know what other people think of him. I have no idea what his market value.
That's the key, right?
Because he's an odd player in a sense, and is a very different kind of player. And I don't know how many people are enamored of that, or if anyone's enamored of that. I don't know what his market. If they ran him up
3 years, he's got 3 years and $60 million on the table still. It's not it's movable, but it's not a great contract. Like Robert Williams, signed a deal. He's got 3 years at 36. That's a big difference. Robert Williams, you could move easy. Marcus Smart, I'm sure you can find a team. And I think the thing with Marcus is, again, he doesn't consistently make people. I know he can rack up assist numbers, but I think assist numbers these days, I don't want to say they're like empty stats, but it's different than it used to be.
Totally
they're
different.
A lot easier to get.
You're preaching to the old
right
choir here on that one.
Yeah.
The concept of an assist that is radically changed. Very easy to get compared to what it was 50, 60, 70 years ago. I can tell you that. So
anyway, I look at the type of assists. It's the type of assists you're giving guys. And like Marcus Smart again, I just feel like if they gave Tatum some help and gave him somebody or some buddies that made his life a little bit easier so he wouldn't have to manufacture everything, he'd be better. He'd be more efficient. Everybody would be in turn, because Tatum has done that. He's added that to his game where he makes people better. He makes the right decision. I don't think Jaylen Brown, he rarely does it. And Marcus Smart at times will do it. And then to me, if you trade Smart, you just got to add somebody coming off the bench that can really, and Derek White can guard. I mean, he's showed he's an elite defender now. He's better than Marcus Smart today as a perimeter defender. The question is, what do you replace Marcus Smart with? What do you want for him?
Yeah. And what about this hypothetical Chris Paul? Just if you had him, would he's got enough left to he can do what Chris Paul does? That could enhance the team.
You know what he does, Bob? He always gets hurt in the postseason. That's what he does.
That's true.
That's what he does. So I wouldn't touch him. I wouldn't touch him.
I'm throwing it out there. That's all. Because I first poo-pooed it and I thought, well, but yeah, you're right. It's not worth it. No, you're right.
Let's move on to, I think, Bob, this is what you were alluding to. Were you talking about possibly a Bradley Beal trade?
Well, I'm not. No, we have. I cede all Bradley Beal discussions to my friend Mr. Goodman. There, he's the Bradley Beal guy. But no, I'm just talking about trading Smart was my one thing.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah, not.
But
they won't want him. Like Washington would not want Marcus Smart. Right. If Washington is going to do anything, Gary, they're going to take expiring contracts. They're going to take picks, and they're going to take like a good young player. So that's what they're going to be looking for Beal. The problem with Beal, too, for better or worse, actually, for Boston, is he's got that no trade clause in his deal, the only one in the NBA. So he's going to handpick where he wants to go for the most part. And that's going to be Miami, Milwaukee, Boston, Philly. I just don't know if Boston's going to, I just don't know what they have. I don't know if Michael Winger, the new guy in Washington, really wants Jaylen Brown because, again, if you trade Beal for Jaylen Brown, you're not going to get a whole lot else, right? It's going to be pretty much, Washington probably has to throw in something else to sweeten it up a little bit. And then Jaylen Brown can walk in a year, and he's probably going to walk from Washington in a year. So that one doesn't make a lot of sense on kind of both ends right now.
Hey, now that it's summer, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for sunny, active days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with flavorful and nutritious ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track reaching your goals. Too busy with summer plans to cook, though? Well, make sure you remain on course and eating well. With Factor, you can skip the grocery store and skip the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you need, I should say. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. All you have to do is heat and enjoy, then get back outside and soak up this warm weather. Elevate eating at home with our new upscale surf and turf and surf and surf meal options like roasted garlic filet mignon and shrimp and Cajun spiced shrimp and salmon. And also budget-wise, it's very good too. Cut back on takeout, get Factor instead. Factor is not only cheaper than takeout, but the meals are ready faster than restaurant delivery in just 2 minutes. So head to factormeals.com/scribe50 and use your code SCRIBE50 to get 50% off your first box. That's code SCRIBE50 at factormeals.com/scribe50 to get 50% off your first box. Well, let's play a game though. Let's just play the roster game. Since we're dealing in sports conversation, which sometimes, to the dismay of Mr. Ryan, is not in reality, but let's play a game. How much better does Beal make the Celtics than the team we saw this year?
So here's what I would say. You can make an argument, and I won't even fight you on it, that Jaylen Brown's a better player than Bradley Beal right now. I won't even fight you on it. If it's true, it's slim. It's slim. But what I will say is Bradley Beal fits with this team, with Jason Tatum, better on and off the court. Okay. And I'm not going to go to people years ago killed me when I said, like, they're not hanging out together. They're not to make it mean that Tatum and Brown aren't friendly. They're friends, but they're not boys. Beal and Tatum are not just boys. Tatum respects the hell out of Bradley Beal as an older brother. Okay. So you got that part of it, first of all, that I think Beal can help Jason Tatum off the court, just feel better, feel more comfortable. You keep him in Boston longer. I think that's part of it. You want to keep Jason Tatum happy. Number two, on the court. Bradley Beal is a high IQ basketball player. I know people will push back and say, well, look at him. All he does is score. Well, here are the best players Bradley Beal's played with over the years. John Wall, who was kind of a broken down John Wall at that point, right? If you remember. And then you had Russell Westbrook a couple of years ago for, I think, 1 year in 2021. His team in 2019 and 20. You ready for this? When he averaged 30 points a game, he averaged 30 points a game 2 straight years in 19 and 20 and 2021. So just a couple of years ago. This was his players around, best players. Rui Hachimura, who was then like a rookie.
Yeah.
Davis Bertans, Ish Smith, Troy Brown, and Thomas Bryant. That's what they surrounded. What I'm trying to say is the dudes had nothing last year. His best players, Kyle Kuzma and Porzingis. Like, come on. What are we talking about here? The guy has had nothing around him of note and nothing around him that can help him because John Wall and Russ can't shoot the ball.
Very good point. And I can see why we know he wants out. He's going to be somewhere else next year, somehow. Interesting. No, it's a very good point. I was stubborn, but I still think it's just the whole issue with the Celtics thing is, do you think you can do what I think they need to do, which is, correct their mistakes, or are they or are they not? It's just never going to happen. And you're so right, Garrett. This door was open this year. They came in with good health in the final in the playoffs, which is number one always for anybody, more than home court advantage. Have your best unit. And they didn't get it done.
When Milwaukee went down, when you saw Milwaukee was hurt, I said, this is it. Last year against Golden State, they got their feet wet. They were there. They had the experience. And I go, this is the year.
Brogdon. Oh, no, it was.
I mean, I was like, what do you guys want? That's why it was very frustrating. It's very frustrating as a fan. This may be a stupid question, but I've asked him before. Jeff, you mentioned that Brown, has that expiring contract or he'd be gone for a year. Is that, and I know you have to make the cap work and you have to match up the salaries. Is that attractive to Washington at all, where they could have a guy for a year, then have the space?
No, because you get nothing for Jaylen Brown if he walks. That's the problem. They can't get nothing for Bradley Beal.
Okay.
Ultimately, that would mean they would get nothing for.
Yeah. But the cap room or having the money to spend or starting over is not attractive.
Sure. Well, it is, but it isn't because, they're not a free agent destination either.
Right. Okay.
So they've got to get picks for Bradley Beal. They've got to get equity for Bradley Beal, young players, picks that they're going to probably start over. That's what they're going to try to do under this new guy. So ultimately, again, he's gonna want picks in any deal. He's gonna want maybe an expiring contract, but probably a bad expiring contract because he wants to stink again next year and get another top pick, add a couple picks through this, and then unload and have kind of a blank slate.
Let's get to another trade rumor, which I think this has got some sizzle to it, and I don't know if it has legitimate legs, but the Zion rumor, Bob. The Pelicans have said they're not moving him. Windhorst had something, your old colleague, Jeff, about Zion. Bob, how hard would you go after Zion if you're a team?
I'm hesitant. Zion, to me, the issue that is forever the issue, will always be the issue, is how long is that body going to allow him to play NBA basketball? And it was the question coming in. Ever since he tore through the sneaker, you realize we're talking about something. I'm serious. You're dealing with something different here. That body is it worries me. I think he's going to be historically a footnote and a what if. Yeah. So that's it. I don't think it's going to be. We've seen the best of him and we know what it can be. But you talked earlier about Chris Paul not being available for the playoffs. You think you're going to be able to rely on Zion Williamson being there when you need him? How can you do that? How can you say that?
You can't. I'm with you. I love Zion, or I loved Zion when I really got a chance to kind of be around him. McDonald's game, Duke, like he was just a really likable kid. And now, you've heard some stuff early on in his career in New Orleans that he wasn't a good teammate. Now you've got this stuff on social media with this woman that's not helping his case either. And you've got all the injuries, and you've got the fact that he can't shoot the ball really. That's the other part in today's day and age, like spacing. He can put up his numbers. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what does that do for the rest of the team?
Right.
So I don't know. I wouldn't. I mean, for the money that Zion is going to get 38, 41 over the next 4 years, that's a lot of money to take on a guy that honestly you have no idea if he's going to be able to play.
Okay, let's wrap it up with John Morant. Now, at the time people are watching this, the penalty may have been handed down. I think we can say this is it's going to be a big one. It's going to be well over 20 games. Could be in the 20 and 30 range, but it's going to be substantial. Again, at the time of this recording, it hadn't been handed down. By the time you're watching this, it may be. But Bob, does this send a message to the rest of the league? Your thoughts on this situation, which is really sad. I mean, it's just.
What I have learned over the years that it's folly to think that messages are received and absorbed by people, whether I go back to John Lucas as in the drug era, and I couldn't believe that John Lucas's downfall at the time of wouldn't have been a shock to the rest of the league and other at that time. No, it wasn't. Believe me, guys did what they were going to do. I would need a little more proof that people are going to, this gun thing is going to be heated. It's just like gambling. The other thing that people are going to heed the problems here. So I don't know. I'm skeptical that any message is going to be absorbed, whatever the punishment is. I find this a fascinating story in that Adam Silver had been coming out during the finals and saying, we've got it done. We know what it's going to be. But I'm not going to let the world know now because I don't want to distract from the finals. I don't want to distract the news. I don't want that to be the news in the finals. So I think based on that, it's going to be pretty big. Don't you think?
I do. And, my biggest thing for Ja is at some point, number one, do you have the people around him in Memphis to be able to help? Right? It's a young team. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know, you need some adults in that room. And those are like, they're good kids, but they're young. So I just wonder if it's on Memphis too now to go bring in some veterans, bring in some guys, bring in a guy, pay him to just work with Ja. Like, forget about the former player, whatever. Go get, again, when Udonis Haslem retires here.
Yeah.
Go get him in or somebody like that.
Just thinking, right? Like on a 12-man roster, when the bottom 2 and 3 don't play anyway, most of the time, it'd be a very worthy idea to have someone around like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's going to be key for Ja and you got to put some of it on Memphis. Obviously, a lot of it on Ja. He's the one who screwed up here.
Right.
He's got to learn from his mistakes and grow up. But you got to give him the right people to be able to do it. Remember, I mean, this kid only went through school for a little while. He blew up at Murray State quickly, then blew up in the NBA quickly. It's a lot to handle quick, like everything coming at you that quick. And yeah, plenty of kids have done it and handled it much better than Ja has. But you started with this, Gary, like I feel for Ja a little bit because we can't relate to what he's going through and gone through. And we probably would have done some dumb shit too. Let's be honest.
You're going to extend him in the long run, the much benefit of if you're his team of you can, because he's so damn good. Let's just remember what we're talking about here. We're talking about a guy that I remember having a discussion we were having earlier in the season, back in the fall, about face of the league thing. And I threw out the possibility of new face in the league, John Morant, in terms of how, his appeal to young people as a player, his electrifying style, he's such an enjoyable player to watch, an exciting player to watch, so this is how good we're talking. We're talking the top of the line talent that's worth salvaging.
Well, Jeff, I often base my opinion on your interaction with these players, and you're pretty much a straight shooter. And if Jeff Goodman says good guy or bad guy, I believe it. And you've always said that this was a good guy.
Yeah.
And not just in basketball. I mean, in life, period. when somebody that has a good heart runs into a tough time, whether it's alcohol related, emotionally related, whatever is going on in the kid's life that led him to the point of getting on Instagram with a weapon, it's just sad.
Yes.
Because the world is his oyster, So and he's worked his ass
and if
off.
you're his buddies, if you're his real friends, you're not doing this shit with them. You're
right. Well, that's the key.
Protecting them.
Yeah.
So it's just poor decision making. But again, he's young. I mean, listen, we all made poor decisions when we were that age, and we just didn't do it in front of the entire world with social media the way it is right now also. So,
all right, guys, great job as always. We will talk next week. Next week, NBA draft. We will get into it prior to the big night on Thursday. And as always, Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tanguay along for the ride podcast at Zoom. Brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball season is in full swing. There's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/Boston to join today. Gentlemen, until next week.